Good day, I am Anela Hardin, ID 123, and I'll be teaching CALENG1 Long Quiz 4. Good day, I am Anela Hardin, ID 123, and I'll be teaching CALENG1 Long Quiz 4. So let me share my screen. The topics to be discussed in this video are indeterminate forms, tracing of exponential and logarithmic functions, and partial derivatives. So let's get started. First is indeterminate forms. Before we got introduced to the concept of derivatives, if you remember, ni-refresh muna sa atin yung topic na limits. Sometimes we encountered 0 over 0, which is indeterminate. And the way we dealt with it was through canceling out the factor that caused the denominator to be 0. For example, limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches 3. So if we substitute 3 into the function, so that's 3 squared minus 9 over 3 minus 3, we'll get 0 over 0. What we can do is transform the numerator into x minus 3 times x plus 3, since this is difference of two squares. So that will be over x minus 3. And we can cancel x minus 3. We're left with x plus 3. And substituting 3 in this limit, 3 plus 3, we get 6. And this is the final answer. However, not all functions are like this. For example, this one. If we substitute 0 dito, so sine 4 times 0 over 7 times 0 minus 2, 0 squared, we'll also get 0 over 0. But here, we can't simplify, we can't simply do what we did in the previous example. Ngayon, papasok yung topic natin. Actually, hindi lang 0 over 0 yung indeterminate form. We have 4 types. Type 1 consists of 0 over 0 and infinity over infinity. So, sila yung functions na may express into this form. Limit of f of x over g of x as x approaches a. Type 2 naman is 0 times infinity. So, ganito sila. Limit of f of x times g of x as x approaches a. Then, type 3 is infinity minus infinity. So, like this. F of x minus g of x. Yan. Then, type 4, tatlo. 1 raised to infinity, infinity raised to 0, and 0 raised to 0. Ganito yung form nila. Limit of f of x raised to g of x as x approaches a. They're called indeterminate forms because when you evaluate the limit, you get neither a number value nor infinity. How do we evaluate them then? We have a theorem called L'Hopital's rule. Basically, how this method works is that when you have a type 1 indeterminate form function, so that, yan, you can compute the limit by getting the derivative of the numerator and denominator separately. And you do it over and over again, so yan, until you get a number or infinity. At this point, it is expected of us that we already know how to get the derivative of any function, may it be algebraic or transcendental. So that's the prerequisite going into this lesson. Let's try to apply this into practice by solving the example shown earlier. Yan, balik natin. So we've already established that this is 0 over 0. So let's apply L'Hopital's rule. By the way, don't confuse this with the quotient rule. Iba yun. L'Hopital's rule, you get the derivative separately. Iba yun sa quotient rule. So let's do that. Limit as x approaches 0. Ano yung derivative ng sine of 4x? So yung sine muna, derivative ng sine is cosine. But then, chain rule, so kailangan mo kunin din yung derivative nito, which is 4. 4 cosine of 4x. Over, derivative ng 7x is just 7. Derivative ng 2x squared is negative 4x. Ayan. So let's try to evaluate the function with this. Evaluate the limit. Equals 4 cosine 4 times 0 over 7 minus 4 times 0. Here, we'll get 4 over 7. And that is our final answer. So, di ba ang galing? Na-compute natin yung limit using L'Hopital's rule. Let's try another one. So, if we evaluate this, it will be 1 minus cosine of 0 over 0 squared, which is just 0 over 0. 0 over 0 siya, so we can apply L'Hopital's rule. Limit as x approaches 0. Ano yung derivative ng 1 minus cosine x is just 0 plus sine x. Dapat yung cosine x is negative sine x, but then negative to, so naging plus, divided by yung derivative ng x squared is 2x. If we evaluate the limit, 2 times 0, 0 over 0 na naman. So we have to keep doing L'Hopital's rule hanggat makakuha tayo ng number or infinity. So ano yung derivative ng sine x? That's just cosine x. Divided by, ano yung derivative ng 2x? That is 2. So if we evaluate that, cosine of 0 over 2, cosine of 0 is 1. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. So that's our answer for this problem. We got type 1 indeterminate form na. To get to the other forms, we just need to find ways to convert them into type 1 indeterminate form. Since sa type 1 indeterminate form lang, nag-a-apply yung L'Hopital's. For example, meron tayong type 2 na indeterminate form kasi if we evaluate this will be 0 times yung ln of 0 from the right is negative infinity. Okay, so in the case of type 2 indeterminate form functions, you just need to put the reciprocal of one of the factors in the denominator. Supposedly, it should get you either 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity afterward. So, pili tayo ng factor dito, isa sa numerator, isa sa denominator. Pero yung sa denominator, i-reciprocal natin para exact same function lang siya. So, preferably, yung nasa numerator is yung more complicated function. So, let's pick ln of x, yung sa numerator natin. So, let's do that. Limit as x approaches 0 from the right, ln of x yung nasa numerator, over yung reciprocal nung kabilang factor, which is 1 over x. If you think about it, ln of x divided by 1 over x is just the same thing as this. You just express it as a fraction. Ayan. So, if we evaluate this, ln of x, ln of 0 from the right is negative infinity over 1 over 0 is infinity. Okay, so infinity over infinity. Type 1 indeterminate form na siya, we can apply L'Hopital's rule. Okay, so limit of x as x approaches 0 from the right. Ano yung derivative ng ln of x? That's just 1 over x. Kinuha na yung derivative ng numerator. Kunin ko naman yung derivative ng denominator. So, ano yung derivative nito? It's actually negative 1 over x squared. We can cancel this. And actually, pwede natin siya lagay sa numerator. So, you will be left with limit as x approaches 0 from the right of x. Which, if you evaluate mo, pag pinasok mo to dito, which should be equal to 0. That is your final answer. So, ganun lang. Again, from type 2, gagawin mo siyang type 1 by, pipili, di ba, dalawang factors to. Yung isa, lalagay mo sa numerator, yung isa, i-reciprocal mo, tapos lalagay mo sa denominator. Ayan. So, magiging type 1 na siya, then apply L'Hopital's. Let's take a type 3 indeterminate form example naman. Type 3 is the trickiest one to solve since, unlike the other ones, there's no general rule in solving them. How you'll go about it depends on the terms given. Basta the end goal always is to convert it into type 1. So we have this example. Let's try it. If you substitute there x sa mga x values, sige, lagyan natin. Secant of pi over 2 minus tangent pi over 2, you'll actually get infinity minus infinity. Okay? So this is type 3 indeterminate form. In this case, we can try expressing these trigonometric functions into sines and cosines. So, para mas simplify sila. Kapag ginawa natin yan, secant of x is just 1 over cosine of x. Meanwhile, tan of x minus tan of x is sine of x over cosine of x. Okay. So, we can make them into a fraction kasi pareho sila ng denominator. So, this is just the same as x approaches pi over 2 of 1 minus sine of x over cosine of x. Let's try to evaluate this. 1 minus sine pi over 2 over cosine pi over 2. That is 0 over 0. So, ito, pwede na natin gamitan ng L'Hopital since na-transform na natin siya into type 1 indeterminate forms. So, we just do that. Limit as x approaches pi over 2. Ano yung derivative ng 1 minus sine x? That's just 0 minus cosine x over derivative ng cosine x is negative sine of x. Okay? Ayan. So, if we substitute to dito, if we evaluate the limit, it will become negative cosine pi over 2 over negative sine pi over 2, which is just 0 over 1 is equal to 0. And this is your final answer. There are a lot of ways, depending nga sa given, to convert it from type 3 to type 1. So, it's recommended na you practice this type of indeterminate form. Let's move on to type 4 indeterminate forms. Fortunately, dito, may specific set of steps tayo. Let's look at the example. So, yan. Di ba ito yung org na nagpo-provide ng vid na to? Syntax. Okay, anyway, I hope you're still listening. So, dito, we'll first express this thing into y. So, let y is equal to sine of x raised to tan of x. Then, if you remember, dati, no, long quiz 3, may na-discuss natin ng logarithmic differentiation. And we'll do that here para mababa yung exponent. So, it will become ln of y is equal to ln of this thing, sine of x. So, kinuha mo lang yung ln on both sides. Then, ln of y is equal to, pwede mo by properties of logarithm, mabababa mo to dito, tan x of ln sine x. Then from there, yan na yung ln y mo. We take muna, for now, yung limit, so x approaches 0 from the right, of ln y. Take note of that, ito muna yung i-take natin. So, it's equivalent to limit, since ln of y equals this, so it's the same as this, ln sine of x. If we evaluate this, this will become 0 times negative infinity. This is type 2 indeterminate forms. So, ano ginagawa natin sa type 2 indeterminate forms to convert it to type 1? We choose one factor to become a numerator and one factor na irreciprocal and nilalagay sa denominator. So, yung mas complicated dito, mukhang yung ln of sine of x. So, lagay natin siya sa numerator. Ln of sine of x. Then, ito, lagay natin sa denominator. over 1 over tangent of x. We can convert this. If possible, convert nyo na lang para mas madali tayo. Convert 1 over tan of x is essentially cotangent of x. So if we evaluate this, actually, you'll get, sige, shortcut na tayo, makakuha nyo dyan, infinity over infinity. So we've successfully converted it into type 1 indeterminate forms and applicable na yung L'Hopital's rule. So we get the derivative of numerator and derivative of the denominator separately. 0 from the right. Ano yung derivative nito? 1 over sine x times yung derivative na nasa loob, cosine x. Okay? Over, ano yung derivative ng denominator? That's just negative cosecant square of x. Let's try to make this into, express this into sine and cosine functions. Baka may makancel tayo. So, just copy this. And then, cosine x over sine x. Nilagay ko lang yun doon. Over, the definition of cosecant is 1 over sine x. But then, since square siya, sine squared of x. Don't forget the negative here. O nga, meron tayong maka-cancel. So we can cancel this and cancel that. Pwede mo to lagay sa numerator. So if we simplify this, we just get limit as x approaches 0 from the right of cosine x, sine x, and negative yan. If we evaluate the limit, it will be negative cosine 0, sine 0, which is just negative 1 times 0, which is equal to 0. Ayan. Take note, though, that this is not yet our final answer. Since, again, we just took limit of ln y as x approaches 0 from the right. So this thing, yung 0, that is equivalent to ln of y, not the limit of this yet. So we equate it. So ln of y is equal to 0. Okay? So algebra na lang to. To get y, you raise both sides sa e raised to 0. Y is equal to 1. And this is your final answer. Yan yung limit of sine x raised to tan x as x approaches 0 from the right. So be careful dito. This is not yet your final answer. I-equate mo pa siya sa ln of y. So, yan. Madalas magkamali dyan. That last example caps the first topic in our coverage, which is indeterminate forms. Thank you so much for watching. You may also avail syntax tutorials by scanning the QR code flashed on your screens. Once again, this is Anella from Syntax, paving your way to excellence.